So the deal is this, you know that something is off. Yes, you know that something is off in your life. That is why you are listening in. Now, what are you going to do about it? This is episode 2 of a 6-part series that we're doing on the emotional security spectrum. If you don't know what that is, the quiz is in the show notes. I'm going to recommend you take that, yes? But you don't need to have taken it in order to get something golden from this episode. So we are going to be focusing on Phase 2, yes, emotional awareness. Last week's episode was on emotional unavailability. And we really leaned in and we talked about how some of us are embracing that Wolverine level character, right? Really tough on the outside, but really not feeling as secure as we want to on the inside, constantly needing to protect. And here's the thing, if you are in an emotionally unavailable space and the Wolverine character is speaking to you, you are technically speaking in one of the most protected places you can be on the spectrum, but you are not in one of the most emotionally secure places. So if you are here listening and trying to level up in life, in love, and in leadership, then this is what I'm going to invite you to do. Grab a journal because I want you to take notes. If you're an auditory learner, fantastic. You're going to click save when I say, hey, this is one of those golden moments, or write this down. Yes, we're here to lean into our edge. And so, without further ado, why don't we continue on with the story? As I mentioned, last week's episode was the story of Wolverine, and I encourage you to go back and listen to that to help inform this episode, although it's not going to be necessary to take something from this episode. And so, as we explore emotional unavailability, which for those of you who are super unclear with what that actually is, we're essentially looking at a character, right, that says, I avoid emotional discomfort at all costs, I don't want to be pushed to talk about it. And if I do be pushed to talk about it, guess what? I'm going to blow up on you. I'm going to blow up on me. Or I'm going to shut down. I might even be the person who shuts down because really, I don't want to talk about things that make me uncomfortable. And I will blow up on you if so, because I want to avoid that discomfort, that emotional discomfort at all costs. This is how the world is. There's nothing I can do to change it. Okay. That character, those sets of thoughts together make up what we would stereotypically, of course, call an emotionally unavailable individual. Okay. Now, the good news is that it is entirely possible to shift from that character to the emotionally aware character. And I'm going to give you that character in a nutshell, too. Yes. An emotionally aware character says, well, snap, crackle, pop. I've noticed something's off, Nina. I've noticed something's off. I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't really know how to put that into words, but I might even know that it has something to do with me. I'm not entirely sure yet, but it might have something to do with my own choices. And, I'm not sure if I want to learn more about it yet, but I am aware that it's there. Something's missing. And, maybe there is a way that I could change that. Maybe there is. That essentially, that set of thoughts is what, of course, stereotypically makes up an emotionally aware individual. They don't know yet how to put language onto things. And so, in order to really help us understand this, I love to tell a good story. So, here's what you're going to do, we're going to hear a story. Okay. I'm going to then give you some learn this application stuff because I want you to take action. I do want you to have actual change in your life. And then I'm going to give you an adventure challenge at the end of this episode. Okay. So, now's a really good time to grab that journal. I'm going to start with an emotionally unavailable love story. Yes. True story between Dani, short for Danielle, and Jack in this case. Now you've got Dani and Jack here. And in the case of the true story, these are real people with real feelings, real lives, real hopes, and real dreams, just like you, just like me. But in the case of me telling this story, I'm really only telling a very small facet of their human existence. And so, as I tell this story about Dani and Jack, you've got to remember, folks, these are character representations of real humanity, okay? They're characters that we're going to be talking about. So, I'm going to tell you the story of Dani and Jack, their emotionally unavailable love story. And I'm going to invite you to listen. I'm going to invite you to notice and be aware if something feels off as I'm speaking with you about this. And the one thing I don't want you to do is to hide how you're feeling once you notice it under the carpet or back in the closet or put it in the attic. I don't want you to hide how you're feeling. I want you to notice it because we're practicing awareness this episode and just put it on the shelf. That's it. I'm not going to ask you to do anything else in this moment except listen to the story, have a genuine human experience of a real story. And then whatever you're noticing, don't hide it and put it away. Don't go back to being emotionally unavailable. Put it on the shelf. Okay? It's going to give you more agency. And I want that for you. Okay, let's do the story. So the deal with Dani and Jack. Dani and Jack tried for several years to make their relationship work, right? Very passionate relationship, really loved each other, worked really well together in many circumstances that a lot of couples did not, right? Would not get the opportunity to work together. These two had worked on themselves individually and were very strong as individuals. But when they came together as a couple, the sparks flew, okay? The sparks flew. And the reason for this, in the case of the story that we're going to tell, is because of a difference in their emotional security levels. Okay. Dani came in with a higher level of emotional security than Jack. And the way that we know this to be true is in the following. Okay. Dani and Jack decide, you know what? It's too much. We clearly can't be a couple right now. Let's try to be friends. So, this is a new phase of their relationship at the time of the story that I'm sharing with you. And in this new phase of trying to be friends, the first time that Dani goes and spends time with Jack as friends, Dani's really under the impression that they're just going to be friends. There's not going to be any intimacy. And so imagine Dani's surprise when Jack comes over and cuddles up with her with his arm around her and holds her close. And it's not like a hold close for a little bit for a friendship time. He holds her close and he leans into her and he holds her some more. And it's a really intimate moment. And Dani's thinking, wait a minute, maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe he wants to work on things, right? But she's not there to make assumptions. And so she just sort of responds accordingly, right? She allows him to hold her that way. She feels safe with him holding her that way, okay? So she's trying to respond to what Jack is putting on the table. Later, Jack ends up kissing her on top of the head. Dani responds, oh, that was nice. Jack ends up kissing her on the forehead at some point. Jack ends up kissing her on the cheek at another point. Do you see where I'm going with this? Slowly but surely, Jack's behavior suggests that he doesn't just want to be friends objectively. Now, for those of you out there like, well, he could still want to be friends. Okay, let's talk about behaviors, folks. Here's the situation I'm going to give you. For those of you who are still stuck on, okay, I'm in an emotionally unavailable space and I'm thinking, they could still want to be friends and just be very, very close. It's possible. I'll give that to you. But here's the example that I want to give you to challenge that. Would you treat your best friend's wife this way? Would you treat your best friend's husband this way? Would you treat your best friend's partner this way? Kissing them on top of the head and on the face? Yes. Okay. So now if you're not feeling disgust or aversion or avoidance in your body now, okay, this is not a typical thing to do when you're just friends, right? So here's the thing. Dani doesn't want to make any assumptions. She's been here, done that several times over with Jack. They're not together. They're in a friendship phase right now, but she does not avoid this. Remember, Dani is at the very least emotionally available. She's definitely emotionally aware. And so she sees this. She sees this actions and she says afterward, hey, Jack, I couldn't help but notice that, the way you were holding me, how you were kissing me, and then I wanted to kiss you back. And I just, what's going on with us? What's going on? And Jack responds as following. We're just friends. And, I really enjoy doing those things with you. And the reality is, I want more with you, Dani, but I don't know how to get that. And I don't believe that maybe we can. So I think it's better if we just stay friends. Now, Dani, of course, feels, what's the word that I would give Dani's character in this case? Feels disappointed by this, feels almost like she was led on a little bit. And so what does Dani do? Dani says, you know what? I don't think I was clear enough then on what friendship looks like. Let me go ahead and talk to Jack about this. Jack, here's the thing. If we're going to be friends moving forward, here's some ground rules. You can't hold me close and hug me and snuggle with me, or else I'll think you want more than just friendship. So don't do that unless you want more. Also, Jack, don't kiss me on the face or on the head. It really does suggest to me that you want more. So thank you for respecting my boundaries here. Please don't rub on me or do other things that you did this last time. It really makes me think that you want more. Can you respect that?" And Jack says, "Yes. Yes, let's be friends." Round two. They're trying to be friends. Dani comes over, spends time with Jack. They have a great time together. He's not kissing on her. She's not making moves with him. They're just responding to each other in a friendly way. Until Jack puts his arm on her and he holds her. And he leans in and he kisses her head and he holds her close and he looks at her. And that's all he does. He just looks at her. He gives her this look. And Dani can see that there's something more here than just friendship. He's not saying it, but there's something more here. Something that needs to be said. And so what does Dani do? She really wants, there to be connection and communication because she's an emotionally available individual and really wants to have these conversations. She doesn't want to hide things, right? She's really practicing for sure emotional awareness. And so she says, this time, very clearly, she records what she's saying just to make sure that it comes out right. And she sends this to Jack after. And she says, "Jack, I really have to say the way that you touched me today suggests that you do not just want friendship. I really feel that you want more than friendship. Please don't avoid the way that you're behaving with me. I'm worried that you will regret not going deeper with me if that's really what you want now. Even though you're telling me you want friendship, that's not how you're treating me. Can you please lean in on this and share with me where you're at? I really hope you're being curious." Dani says this to Jack. Jack turns around and texts Dani and says, "Dani, I love you. I love everything we have. I wish that I knew how to be with you, but the reality is, because of the way that you are, I just don't feel that this is the right thing for us. I don't feel like we should be more." And so this time, Dani's upset. Dani's genuinely upset because she feels taken for granted. She was very clear on what the boundaries were. She watched him continue to go past those boundaries and she addressed them, right? And she's like, "Okay, what am I supposed to do here? What am I supposed to do? Do I just need to cut him off completely? What's going on?" But Dani believes in the rule of three. This is something that we teach here with Empowered Human, right? That 3 times to give somebody grace to try to learn something. Doesn't mean you have to do that, folks, but it can be a really helpful tool because otherwise somebody will push and push and push against your boundaries until inevitably they do fail, right? So I always say 3 times to try to give someone some grace if you have capacity for that. And in this case, Dani did. Dani knew first time, okay, what did I just learn from this? Because I thought I stated a boundary. He didn't follow it. Let me get really specific. Boundaries are set the second time that Dani comes out, as well as the consequences. If you do this, then I will tell this, right? So 2 times now, Dani has done this. If it happens a 3rd time, Dani thinks, I will know that he's not listening, can't hear me, or does not respect me. So let me give it one more time. Dani tries a 3rd time, round 3, folks, to be friends with Jack. This time, Jack and Dani have their family with them. And they have this beautiful family day. Beautiful family day in which they're paying for things for the other person's family. They're definitely laughing together. They're sharing in the adventure of life in this moment. And several times, Jack goes to put his hand and hold Dani's shoulder. And Dani takes his hand and removes it. She's physically removing it publicly now. She's not putting up with this anymore. He said they would be friends. She's ready to commit to that. Then he tries to put his hand on her knee and rub her knee. She grabs his hand again, looks him in the eye, moves his hand. Okay. This happens a few times throughout the day. And at the end of the day, Dani says to Jack, "Jack, what are you doing? We're supposed to be friends. I really feel at this point, this is the 3rd time we've tried to do this now, that your body's telling you it doesn't want to just be friends with me." Now, here's the thing. Dani also clues Jack in on this, right? She's not making assumptions that Jack wants to be with her romantically as a partner. She's also not making assumptions that Jack wants her to be a side piece and just wants her physically. All Dani knows for sure is that Jack's behavior is not treating her just as a friend. Okay. So for those of you out there who are like, oh my gosh, when that happened, I thought this, don't make assumptions about the behavior, but notice the behavior. Notice this person is touching me this way. I need clarification on what this means, as opposed to making the assumption of, oh, in Dani's case, he really wants to be with me and that must be it. Maybe it's, oh, he really just wants to touch a female body right now. Dani wouldn't know unless Jack was honest with her, right? And so Dani does the best that she can. She leaves that night, right? Leaves that day behind, and immediately the next day says, so here's the thing, Jack. I love you. I love our family time. I want this in 3 weeks. I want this in 3 months. What are you doing? She's really calling Jack in on this and on his behavior. And again, folks, third time's the charm. Jack actually says the same thing. It's a new version, but it's the same thing. I also want this in 3 weeks and I want this in 3 months. But you know what I don't want? I don't want us to be more than friends. And so here's the thing at this point. Dani has to tune in here. This is 3 times she set a boundary with friendship, which Jack says he wants, but has not behaved that way. What we already have here, folks, is a misalignment. If you're out there thinking one thing but behaving another way, you're misaligned. If you're with a partner who's thinking one way but behaving another way, they're misaligned. Mark that down. I want you to start to recognize what misalignment looks like. It's important to recognize what misalignment looks like because you will feel out of integrity when you are not aligned. And in this case, what you have is Jack wants to be a certain type of man. Dani wants the man that Jack wants to be, but Jack is not the man that he wants to be. And so Dani cannot have the man that Jack wants to be. You still with me on this? Quick break for a sec. If Empowered Human is offering you something valuable about courage, healing, belonging, or love at your core, you may want to work with me. In particular, if you know of or identify as a high-achieving man, and I say this quite seriously because if you don't, I'm going to drive you up a friggin' wall. High achiever that has leveled up in every arena except your relationship with yourself or your relationships with others. Visit empoweredhuman.love for more on how you can level up in your relationships with one of our Empowered Human intensives. Intensives understand the value of your time. Of the 3 that I offer, Walk into Courage covers a month's worth of weekly sessions in just 2 hours. Dive into Courage is a 3-day intensive that can cover up to 6 months worth of sessions. And Ascend into Courage is a year-long program to give you the skills and the network you need to level up for lifelong emotional security. When it comes to leveling up in your relationships, I got you. Head to empoweredhuman.love for more, but for now, back to the episode. The reality is at this point that Dani has to be honest and call herself in. Dani, you've been here 3 times now with this. You tried to be friends, right? Tried to be the friendship zone. And every time Jack has leaned into you and tried for more. He's tried to go for more. And what he's telling you now is he wants your time. He wants your energy. He wants your emotional bandwidth and he wants you physically. But you know what he doesn't want? He does not want to commit to you. And even if he's saying he wants someone he can cherish, he wants to be loved, he wants to be respected. Dani's character, right? She knows she's got to be more honest with herself than Jack can be. Because the fact of the matter is, if Jack is emotionally unavailable, an emotionally unavailable individual is not being honest with themselves. They're not aware of how their behaviors affect themselves or other people. They're not emotionally aware yet. And so they end up in this cycle. They end up repeating this cycle of, well, you know, I want everything, or I want this, right? Specific thing. I know you've been there, folks, but you know, I can't commit to that, or I don't know how to commit to that, but it'll never work. I know you've heard this out there. I know some of you, your heartstrings are getting plucked right now. Okay, take a breath. Ooh. This is the reality of an emotionally unavailable love story. And Dani and Jack are not the only people engaging in this love story. At some point, you will have to say, I need to walk away. Dani was inviting Jack to level up, to rise into the man that he said he wants to be. Jack wasn't ready for it. And here's the thing is, you might not be ready for it. The man in your life or the partner in your life might not be ready to rise up. And that's okay. It just means that they're not there for you at this point in time. And I'm not saying hold out, but I'm also saying don't hold out or not hold out. You get where I'm going. Take both of those, folks. Okay. The only thing that you can do is make the next best step for you. And I don't know the context of your situation. So I'm not going to give you advice. I'm going to give you this story of lived experience, a true story between two people who love each other. And I'm going to ask you to be discerning. I'm going to ask you to be able to notice and be aware and not go back to being emotionally unavailable like Wolverine. Yes? When I first started telling the story, I asked you to take out a notebook. I wanted you to notice and not hide how you were feeling under the carpet or in the closet. I wanted you to put it on the shelf. What did you notice coming up for you as I told this story? Did you notice that you were sad or angry or afraid? Did you notice that you were happy or disgusted? What did you notice? I ask you what you notice because we're moving into the learn this portion of the story. And while I wish I could say that Dani and Jack, had this magical, wonderful romantic miracle, the reality is that the last I heard about Dani and Jack, Dani had to request no contact because Jack did not know how to show up for Dani as a friend, and Dani's emotional bandwidth had run out. She no longer had patience or capacity to wait for Jack to either level up to be a friend, a true, genuine friend, or to level up to be her true, genuine partner and live the life that he said he wanted, right? Everyone's on their own journey, and we can't do it for them, folks. So as you put yourself into the story, we're going into the learn this. I want you to have perspective. Who are you in this story? Are you Dani? Are you Jack? Are you a mixture of Dani and Jack? Dana Jack? Jackadan? I don't know, but you get where I'm going with this. Yes. I really want you to ask yourself, I'm going to go into song here. Do you see what I see? Like, quite seriously, do you see what I see? Two people with two different emotional security levels, and this is why sparks flew. One of them wanted to communicate. One of them did not know how to communicate more than what they wanted, right? And so in this learn this section, last episode, we really focused on Wolverine. This episode, because it is about emotional awareness, I want you to imagine the character Spider-Man. I know we're sticking with the superhero theme. Go us. Okay. Spider-Man this go. And, for those of you who are really big on characters and gender, Spider-Woman, Spider-Person, that is not the point. The point is that an emotionally secure human being has very particular characteristics. And in the case of this episode, an emotionally aware human being has a particular set of characteristics. And so embrace Spider-Man, the character, however they look to you. Yes, wherever they are in the Spider-Verse. With that said, here's the things that I want you to look at as you embrace your inner Spider-Man. Why would I choose Spider-Man? When Spider-Man first becomes Spider-Man, I want you to think Peter Parker wakes up in the morning, is super aware of so many more things than he has ever been aware of, right? Sounds, sights, colors, all these different spaces, all these different things. Very aware now, but does not have the language to describe what is occurring, doesn't understand what's going on with the webbing on his hands, doesn't understand why the hair on the back of his arms is raising as something comes, at him, does not understand these things yet. If you look at this from an emotional security lens, Peter Parker is just having emotional awareness. Yes, we're sticking with the metaphor here. Just becoming aware of things, which, if I'm quite honest, can be quite overwhelming. So for those of you out there who are saying, Dina, as I'm becoming emotionally aware, what does that look like? I am going to give you 3 steps to what that looks like, what you can be doing in order to move from emotionally aware to emotionally literate, which is the next phase. But one of the challenges of emotional awareness is that as you start to notice things, man, does it start to stack up. You start to notice it in your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your peers, your relationship with your friends, your family, with strangers, with your children, with your parents. You start to notice, and for some of us, it can be overwhelming. It can make you anxious. And then, of course, what do you want to do? Protect yourself. So you're like, I've got to go back in. And you go back to phase one, emotionally unavailable. You shut down, you shut people out, you disconnect. I don't want that for you unless you truly need it for your survival. I don't want you to go back. I want you to maintain where you're at, right? Build that emotional fitness because that's where we are on the spectrum in the emotional fitness, right? Part. I want you to maintain where you're at and I want you to level up from here. So, with that said, I mentioned earlier in the episode, the Wolverine was the most protected place to be, but not necessarily the most secure. So here we are with Spider-Man, who's highly aware of things, like I want you to be, but is really doesn't have the language for it. And so if you're out there saying, you know what, Nina, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I don't want to be emotionally unavailable any longer. I want to be emotionally aware. In fact, I want to be emotionally literate. I want to keep going. But right now, you're talking about emotional awareness. What are the 3 steps? I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. The 3 steps that we're looking at is first, number 1, emotionally speaking, as you are in the arena with me now, I want you to build your vocabulary. I want you to know what the 5 core emotions are. So get your pen and paper out because I want you to write these down. The 5 core emotions that we often work with here, right? Different strokes for different folks, but that we work with in the empowered human universe at this point are anger, sadness, joy, disgust, and fear. I want you to memorize those, to click save on them, because when you're feeling like you want to pull back, or when you're feeling like you want to blow up, big feelings in either direction that take you out of being present, right? We don't need perfection, but we do need presence. I want you to think, wait a minute, 5 emotions that Nina talked about. Which one am I feeling right now? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I afraid? Am I feeling happy? Am I disgusted by what's happening? What is going on right now that's either having me blow up or having me shut down? This is how you start to practice emotional awareness, folks. Once you commit that to memory, you're building your vocabulary here, right? You're just now starting to be aware that, oh my gosh, I've got 5 different core emotions. Yes, you do. For my gentlemen in particular, you have likely been conditioned, not intentionally, but through society, sorry. You have likely been conditioned to not know how to recognize your fear, sadness, sometimes your anger, or your disgust. You have often been taught how to recognize joy and how to continue to go for joy, even at the expense of others or yourself. Okay. So we're not going to get into the huge piece that is what happens when you keep going for joy, and sacrifice all the other emotions. It's a problem, just so we're clear. You need to be able to feel all your emotions if you want emotional sovereignty. Okay. If you really want to be able to say, I can experience life and all of the emotions and them not shut me down and go back to emotional unavailability, well, welcome to the emotional arena where I'm going to be working with you on this. Yes? First thing I asked you to do was to build your vocabulary, understand what those 5 words are and understand what they look like. Okay. Because I can recall so vividly a moment in which a man was yelling at me and he was yelling at me, right? And I looked at him and I said, "You're really angry right now." And he yelled back at me, "I'm not angry." He did not know how to recognize his anger, which is not the same as not being angry. And I want you to flag this because for a lot of you out there, you are not aware of when you are angry, but other people are. For many of you out there, you are not aware of when you are sad, but other people might be. For many of you out there, you are not aware of when you are disgusted, which by the way looks like judgment, either to yourself or to other people. Oh, yeah. Now some of you are like, oh shit, I am a little judgmental. to myself or others. Oh, snap. Yeah, hi. You're so human is the thing. There is no shame in this game. I am so proud of you for listening to this point and being in the emotional arena with me, okay? But let's keep going. I've got you. Let's keep going. I want you to recognize those 5 words. That's the first one, because the second challenge, the next step that I'm going to ask you to lean into for emotional awareness, is for you to practice labeling the emotions. Okay. Not enough to just say, okay, I know that these 5 emotions exist. Nina says they exist. And you know what? Nina says I might not even recognize them. And then level 2, Nina asked me to start labeling them. And that's exactly what I want you to do. I'm a shade of anger, right? I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. I'm a little irked. Those are all shades of anger. Okay. I'm a shade of disgust. I'm feeling really judgmental. I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling ashamed. There's shades of disgust. I want you to keep going with that, right? Feeling a little blue, shade of sadness. Label your emotions. Because for level 3, right, step 3 of emotional awareness, what I want you to do, have you an end of day check in, a reflection at the end of your day that says, you know what I felt? Here's this one moment. I felt X when Y happened. Do you see how these 3 skills are helping you be in your emotional arena? Do you see how they might help you level up in life, love, and leadership? It's not magic, it's skills. And I love to be able to say that because it means there is nobody born this way. We get conditioned this way. You have experiences that allow you to level up. Sometimes you choose it, sometimes we don't. So here's what I'm going to invite now. I have an adventure challenge at the end of every episode. This one's no different. You can, of course, begin your emotional awareness steps. Yes, 1, memorize those 5 core emotions. 2, start labeling them. I'm a shade of this right now. I'm feeling angry right now, whatever that feeling might be for you. Step number 3, do your end of day reflection. Pick a moment from your day. I felt X when Y happened. You are practicing being in the emotional arena and owning the truth of what is present on your inner emotional landscape. Yes? This whole series, if you've listened 2 episodes ago, we brought in the idea that emotional security is not about fighting the rain, it's about weathering the storm. And these skills are going to help you stay present when the storm inevitably happens. And the storm always comes, folks. Always. The only question is, how prepared are you for it? If you're up for one of those steps, my hat is off to you. If you're really curious about diving in and learning what your emotional security profile is, go take the quiz. It's that simple. The link is in the show notes. And even just for listening to this episode, I'm so proud of you, right? You've been in the emotional arena with me. Thank you so much for being here. And that is what I planned for today, folks. This was an episode on emotional awareness. In our upcoming episode, we're going to be focusing on emotional literacy. Yes, being able to not just know what the emotions are and recognize them, but to utilize them and recognize the difference between when they're your emotions and somebody else's so that you can know what to do. Yeah. That is what I planned for you today. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Yes, you've got a week for these adventure challenges to go through. Talk to you then. Bye for now.